Pongratz András, or as in America known Andrew or Andy Pongratz, and Hajdu Erik are both living in the US and Hungary as well. They are both Hungarians, having lived many decades in the US. If you compare the political life of Hungary and the USA, and generally of Europe and the USA, how do you find the American politics and lifestyle and society and the European and especially the Hungarian politics, lifestyle and society?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, my family is thriving in the United States, and we really don't have any. My family had no effect of what's going on in politics in the US. I'm sure that all my family have voted for Trump, and we had a very good life. As far as that is concerned, we still have a very good life even under Biden, but of course we enjoyed the $1.90 gas against paying most $5 and $6 for a gallon of gas, and we are absolutely stunned that they cheated the election and they put this guy, poor old man Biden, in there. The poor guy doesn't even know where he is and who he's giving his hand to shake to. And it is a shame what's going on in the US today, and very much hope that the election in a few days will change it. As far as the life in Hungary is concerned, I'm very pleased that I come, over 30 years now I come, and every year I see improvement. Life is better and better and better, and there is construction going on everywhere, and life is very, very good. I know a lot of people complain that that's, I think it's a Hungarian thing that's happening, but in effect Hungarians are living a very good life, especially compared to 1956. I enjoy coming here. It's good to talk to friends, old friends, and talk about the old days in Hungary, and celebrate the memories of the revolution. But we have a very good life in America, and Biden's and the Democrats' dirty business, what they're doing in the US, thankfully does not affect my family. Before this election, I was very, very interested in American politics, listened to news 6 to 8 hours a day, and now I cannot even turn the TV on because I just get mad everything I hear about the liberal media, how they try to.
You think it's a liberal media? Because I would characterize it more as a corporate media. You know, they sort of outwardly, you know, they talk about cultural issues, and they sort of, they're like wolves in sheep's clothing. They're the ultimate capitalists. So I'm not sure that you could really characterize them, I mean, as left. Right? I know that people, conservatives in the US, say that that it's leftist and all this stuff, but for me, I'm also jaded by the system there as well, but it's because I don't think that there's much of a choice. They've sort of legalized bribery in the United States to the point where both parties are fully financed by the same set of corporations and billionaires, and there's really not much of a choice. And you know, these people, they pretend to be on your side. That's why they they say these cultural sort of indicators and talking points, but they're not. There's really nothing leftist about them, as far as I can see.
Well, you're right, you know, but it doesn't affect us personally, not my family, thank God.
And what are your, what do you think, what can be the turnout of the midterms? For example, how could be the votes going in Arizona or in New Jersey?
Well, I hope that Republicans will win both houses, and if they have any guts, they impeach Biden and that woman who would come, and the Republicans would take over the White House and hopefully would stop this war, because it's only America that can stop this idiotic war that's going on between Russia and America. And if it wasn't for America sending all the tremendous amount of money to Ukraine, this war would have been stopped long time ago.
You know, perhaps the Republicans would go in a different direction and start a different war. There's no reason to believe that Republicans wouldn't finance coups in other countries. Both parties have overthrown governments all across the world for decades, and financed regime change at the behest of the corporations that back their campaigns. So I don't really see any reason to believe that the Republican Party in general would stop these wars at the behest of corporations. Perhaps a rogue actor might behave differently. I know many people considered Trump a rogue actor, an outsider to politics, and perhaps that's why they were hoping that he would somehow behave differently. I think really the only thing that he did that was different was reveal some of the nasty things that the government was doing. He puts an ugly face on the American empire, and I think that's why they're so against having him there, because when he's in power, everybody pays attention. People have this visceral negative reaction to him, the people who don't like him, and they pay a lot closer attention to what the United States is doing when someone like him is in power. As an executive, he really didn't do much that was different than the standard run-of-the-mill politicians, I think. Or do you think he did something that was unique?
Well, you know, to a certain degree, I feel that the same thing happened to Russia, what happened to Hungary in Trianon. Russia it lost so much of its territory with millions of Russian people that is living under Ukrainian depression. And to a certain degree, I see some kind of a
parallel.
Yeah, parallel between Trianon and what happened to Russia, and that's what Putin is trying to correct. Of course, you know, destroying Ukraine is a very bad way of doing it, and if the United States had a normal person leading it, would not allow it for any change to come about the way it's coming. But the change there has to come also, just like we in 1956 needed, it had to be, a change had to come. The Russians living in Ukraine need a change also, just like we needed a change. And it's too bad it's going to happen through this destruction of what's going on in Ukraine. Sort of, I see a parallel between Trianon, that we lost our territories, and the Russians lost not just their territory, but people who live under the rule of the Ukrainians, that they cannot speak their own language, just like the Hungarians in Carpathalia. So there is a change need to come there as well.
And so if your party were to get some power in Hungary, last question for you, just what would be sort of the three major changes that you would try to implement in Hungary? What are the three big things that you think Fidesz is doing wrong, which your party would like to correct?
Well, there's a lot of things that the Fidesz is still not doing. Just like I talked about this extraordinary high pensions to ex-communists, allowing...
This seems more symbolic, though, than really substantial.
Yeah, it is symbolic, but very, very symbolic. And other things like the 2 and 3 people that were they were spying for the government, and their names is still.
Are you referring to the Pegasus software? Is this?
A kétharmados, the spies.
Yeah.
Under the communist regime, their name is still not published.
Oh, okay.
And not allowed to be published. How? Why? The Fidesz government is not allowing it. There is still influence by them on the government. Boris Peter, for example, who was driving in a Mercedes before 1956, today he is in charge of all 1956 things in Hungary. What does he know? How does he keep?
He was the former
Fidesz.
Prime Minister of Hungary.
Yeah. How does he keep his influence that Hungary cannot do what Poland did and what Germany did as far as exposing communism when the change came about? In Hungary, it didn't.
So retaliation and revenge, it seems, that's one of the main issues here, is to expose the names of people who were formerly members of the Communist Party. That's one of the major goals of your party.
There are still things that the Fidesz does not allow to come out. It's still that I hope that the nationalist government sooner or later will come to solve these problems. It's wonderful what's going in the country, and it's wonderful how Hungarians live, but for example, this, I don't know if you know about this Budaházi situation, who just got out of prison. I was there when he got out. He's a nationalist. He's not a criminal. They sentenced him to 17 years in prison. He's a patriot.
I don't know much about this topic.
And it happened in this country now today for a patriot, for being a patriot, to be sentenced to 17 years in prison.
What was he accused of?
They say that he's a terrorist. He's a patriot.
What did he do? I don't know.
I think he was in the National Guard on the border, and he was catching migrants coming in. And my understanding is that somebody reported him, and they took him in court that he was a terrorist. When he was doing his job, protecting the country.
He was the earlier leader of many protests against the government, which was not the current Orbán government, but the previous social liberal government, and for example, Gyurcsány government.
So it seems to me that you've been pretty you've been praising Fidesz for the most part. You think that they've brought about some positive changes, and you see a lot of improvement in Hungary. So if your party does get into power, I think that you would be willing to work together with Fidesz and make a coalition with them for the most part. So it seems that the criticisms are mostly geared around what you just mentioned here.
You're talking about Mi Hazánk?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what I was hoping in this election that we just had in April, what I was hoping that the Fidesz would not get the 2/3 and would be depending on the Mi Hazánk for the real nationalist decisions in Parliament. Although it came out too good for them and they got the 2/3 again, so they are not forced to depend on the Mi Hazánk for a few votes, the 7 that are in Parliament now. And I'm hoping that there are coalition governments in practically every country, in Europe especially, and that's what I was thinking and hoping that that's what would happen even after this election. Fidesz would cooperate, although Dura, who was the vice president of the parliament and vice president of the Mi Hazánk party, she wrote it in her book that even though the Mi Hazánk is not in power, but it's able to force the government, who is in 2/3 power, is able to have the Fidesz do the right thing by publicizing what they should do.
For example, one of the current legal changes and which was made by the Minister of Interior, who is also responsible for the health care system, that the abortion rights will be much more strict, which is a long-term idea of Dura, who was forcing it already for several parliamentary periods, even before Mi Hazánk, when she was still in Jobbik. And actually also many people know that the idea of this new law on abortion is actually coming from Dura and from her party, but was officially made into law by the government and the minister.
Yes, so her influence is already very, very deep in Hungarian politics, thank God. Even though she's not in the government as the Fidesz is.